Wait, what?
What's up, guys? My name is Sheldon and this
My name is Takudzwa
is my friend Takudzwa. We're here at Nelson Mandela University, students over here. Today we're going to be talking about Zimbabwe, and Takudzwa was in fact born and raised in Zimbabwe. Where in fact are you from in Zimbabwe?
Okay, I'm from a city called Gweru. It's about 300 km from Harare.
Yeah.
It's in the Midlands of
Yes.
Zimbabwe.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to ask Takudzwa, as first of all a Zimbabwean citizen and also as our SRC international officer, can you explain to the viewers watching this video today what the events are that have unfolded leading up to where we are today in the political situation of Zimbabwe?
Okay, I pretty much think my analysis is going to be quite interesting for the viewers because I'm a former historian.
Yeah.
If you look at the history of France, during the reign of Louis XVI, his wife Marie Antoinette had great influence on the political situations that were happening in France.
Yeah.
Mainly her lavish lifestyle and just how cunning she was towards Louis XVI. I can pretty much equate this to the situation in Zimbabwe, where we find that the First Lady has had pretty much quite a number of influence in terms of the unfolding political events. Mainly, firstly, we could speak about the sacking of the first Vice President, Jesum Juru, happened to be female, and then leading up to the sacking of Emerson Mnangagwa, where she would verbally, attack, the Vice President in front of the political party supporters at rallies. So I can pretty much say this is what sparked everything that was happening, because Zimbabweans noticed that the power struggle was starting to become personalized, and it was starting to actually turn into a Mugabe dynasty, so we can say, because she was slowly consolidating power until people actually noticed that if we take this route, it's going to be bad for citizens. And as already is with the current economic situation.
Sure. And how would you say the adverse effects of the coup that has currently taken place in Zimbabwe will pan out? Was it a good move by the military, or would you have suggested another means of resolve?
Well, I mean, the coup, which is not really a coup, I think that was one of the best moves that could have happened in terms of moving the country forward. Mainly because, number one, it's the highest powerful body which is being involved. Taking it back to South Africa for a little bit, the military doesn't really have that much power in terms of the politics, but in Zimbabwe, it's got pretty much a lot of power because the generals are pretty much the advisors of the president and much more involved. So when the army is for the people, no one is against the people, because that's the most powerful body you can ever have.
Yeah, you pointed out that it was a coup that is not really a coup. Could you explain that?
Well, I mean, it's not really a war going on.
Yes,
it's just the military which is present in the streets to show a little bit of intimidation and force, but it's not really much or war or a gun struggle going on to take power. It's just the military showing that it's capable of being present, and it's quite powerful in everything they do. Because I mean, you can't say there's no gunfights or whatever, but then meanwhile the streets of Harare are being roamed by several 8 military tanks from the time you get to the airport up until the time you probably leave the city center.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Now, interesting events which have recently transpired at the University of Zimbabwe. Students have closed down the university, refusing to let academic progress proceed until Mugabe resigns. Now, as it stands, Mugabe was asked that on Monday at 12 o'clock he should make a speech to resign, else his party would impeach him. Now, the weekend has come and gone. He, in fact, made a speech to the contrary of what people were expecting. And the university students, well, they are where they are. Would you say that their plea is valid? In fact, for free education was one of the things which came up.
Well, in terms of the refusal to write exams, that's pretty much justified. Even looking at the march that happened, the numbers that came out were overwhelming. I mean, it's something that has never happened before in Zimbabwe. It was unite, it was diverse, showing that the struggle was actually large. And the university students standing up saying, we don't want such leadership anymore. It's a cry of the people. And when they say they don't want a president and they won't move forward with education, it's people who are sacrificing their life, saying, if this move doesn't happen, we can't go on, because people are really tired.
Yeah.
And that's a move that you see that things that aren't really moving forward. And moving on to the issue you mentioned about free education, at this particular time, I think it's not justified for us Zimbabweans to be talking about free education, although we have had free education in the past. Over the time, revolutionary of the education system, we recently started, paying over the 2 decades that have come before. So free education is not a conversation you can start having, and also linking it to the current economic situations. There's much more bigger struggles to fix in terms of the renovation of hospitals, employment opportunities, reviving the banks and everything else. So education is not, free education is not a conversation to have at this particular moment in Zimbabwe.
And now tying into the university over here and how the students from Zimbabwe over here are being affected by what's going on in Zimbabwe. What could you say as an international officer working with the SRC are you guys doing to prepare for what might happen with the adverse effects of the political struggle in Zimbabwe at the moment?
Okay, well, first of all, let's identify the problems which students may be affected with. First of all, there's the visa situation. I mean, the march and everything really affect the working days of the embassy, and it has greater influence on how many people apply a day. And looking at the statistics, about 140 Zimbabwean students actually have visas which might be expiring at this particular moment. And we're trying our best from this end to try and talk to Home Affairs to extend their stay in South Africa, because the terms and regulations of our visas are quite a little bit harsh, because after 5 days within your expiry date of the visa, you have to vacate South Africa, or else you won't be allowed to come back in the next 5 years. So we are trying our best to negotiate with the Home Affairs. And second of all, in terms of the problems that students here face, particularly Zimbabwean students with the current political situation, we're looking at financial constraints. Recently, with what's been happening in Zimbabwe, which also was a contributing factor to the rise against the president, was the financial constraints people were facing. Barclays recently cancelled visa cards on students here. So any student who had money in the Barclays visa card could not withdraw their money.
Yeah.
And if they were probably planning to travel back to Zimbabwe, they can't really, get ticket money anymore. So they have to look for other ways to try and juggle and actually fund themselves to actually be able to buy a ticket back home. And lastly, we've approached student counseling to try and offer group sessions and emotional support towards the situation.
That's really good. Now, I really appreciate everything you've said over here. Personally, I think as a South African, I know Zimbabwe is our sister country, and I know there are many South Africans who feel similarly. I want to ask you, Takudzwa, if there's anything we as South African citizens can do to help the situation.
No, thank you, Sheldon. That's a very critical question that you've asked, because I just want to say to fellow students and South Africans, what's happening in Zimbabwe it's a very emotional time and critical time for us Zimbabweans. So I think the best thing is to at least mind what we say when we're on social media, because you don't know how it could directly affect a Zimbabwean. Recently I had an encounter on Facebook where one of the students here's comments was, what happened in Zimbabwe is pretty much a carnival than a march. When you see great numbers rising against, a leader like that, it shows that people have suffered for so long. And it's not very justified for an individual to call what happened in Zimbabwe a carnival. This is a very emotional time. It's very difficult. I myself am, emotionally affected by this, because my dad served in the army in Zimbabwe, and he actually died while on duty in the DRC when I was 3 years old.
Sure.
So, he's had his part to contribute in the country, and, some of these steps are one of the things he would have wished for. So for me as an individual, what's happening in Zimbabwe, support, emotional support is the best, way to support your fellow brothers and sisters. And, when we don't have anything positive to say about Zimbabwe, let's not say it now when Zimbabweans are going through a really emotional time. But let's try our best to support Zimbabweans and move forward, guys.
That's a very good point. Thank you so much, Takudzwa, for pointing that out.
Thank you.
Myself, I feel that the manner in which Zimbabwe is undergoing this political transformation, being peaceful, I find it admirable, to be honest. Yes, thank you again so much for your time today. And this is social media, so be careful of what you say on social media, but say this on social media, share this on social media, and get what Takudzwa has to say out there. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you did like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you feel there are any important points which we left out or which you have a perspective to offer, then the comments are there just for you. We would love to open discussions about this. Thank you again, and
thank you for having me, Sheldon.
Sure.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time. Hit that subscribe button. That's all from us. Cheers.